Hi, my name is Kristin and this is Kristin Kraves Books. So I'm here with my February wrap-up, and February is always an interesting reading month because the 28 days just fly by. I don't read as much as I thought I was going to. I didn't read as much romance as I had planned. I will link to my romance TBR up above, but I only got to a couple of those books and then a romance that wasn't even on the list. That always happens. That is the plight of a mood reader. And so I read around 3,255 pages, which I am thrilled with. I'm in the middle of a couple of books right now, so that'll be on my March TBR. I'm not one of those people who cares if I carry a book into a new month. That doesn't bother me at all. So I found some new favorite books, some that didn't quite hit the mark for me. So I'm just gonna go in order of which I read them. So starting with the first book, which was sadly not a winner for me, and this is The Maid by Nita Prose, and this is such a popular book right now, and I can understand it. I liked the setting of this. It is set in like a Regency hotel, a really upscale hotel, and I loved that. And I really did like Molly as the main character, but I had some issues with how she is depicted, and I think it's best to check out some reviewers who are own voices on that one. It is never explicitly said that Molly is neurodivergent, but I think many of people have inferred that she is, and I just don't know that her portrayal is as good as it could have been, and there's some other stereotypes that this falls in too, but it is compulsively readable. It is interesting. I liked a lot of the side characters a lot, but I don't know, it just wasn't as good as I thought it would be. I do think it'll be an interesting movie. I know that Florence Pugh is signed on to play Molly, and I'd be curious to see what she does with that character. So yeah, if you read this one, let me know your thoughts on it, because I know a lot of people loved it, a lot of people aren't loving it. I'm sort of somewhere in the middle, and it's one I read it at the beginning of February, and I'm still working out all my thoughts on it, but yeah, an interesting read. I'm glad I read it just because everybody's reading it, so now I can have an opinion on it, even though I'm not quite sure what that opinion is just yet. So let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. The next book was a 5-star read for me, and actually I am co-hosting a read-along of this entire series, and I think our first live show for the first book is going to be tonight, the day that I post this. So if it is March 2nd when you're watching this, we do have a live stream tonight. I know that it's 9 p.m. Eastern because that's my time. I will leave all the information for that linked down below, but that book is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. This is the first book in the Memoir of a Lady Trent series, and I love this. It is written as though this is Lady Trent's memoir, but this is a fiction story, and Lady Trent is like a anthropologist who discovers and it researches dragons. So dragons are a part of the novel, but not a huge part. So if that's what you're going into this for, I think you would be disappointed. It's more about dragon skulls and bones and those kind of things, and just the biology of dragons, as you might be able to infer from the cover here. And I did not expect to cry in this, but I did. I've been telling everybody that it reads like Jane Austen with a nod to dragons, a little bit of touch of dragons, and I think that's pretty accurate. Somebody else in our group chat said it's like Bridgerton with dragons, so take that with that what you will. I think high fantasy lovers probably won't jive with this as much. I don't think it's high fantasy. It's more quiet, more character studies, which is why I loved it so much. And I actually have the second book sitting right here, ready for March, and this is The Tropic of Serpents. So this is the second book, and I'm so thrilled to be co-hosting this and actually getting through this series because I was surprised by how much I love this. Fantastic on audio as well. Everybody's been loving the audiobook, so if you've read this, tune into the live stream tonight. I then read a couple arcs, and the first one was Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley, and this is a foodie romance, which is my new favorite trope. I did a whole video about how I love this trope, and this book was on there, and it's one of the books that I read to prepare for this video, and I'm so glad that I did. Sadly, this book does not come out until June or July. I will put the date here, so you're gonna have to wait for it, but I'm going to hype it up all the time until that date. I won't let you forget about it because I loved it. If you like books with the bachelor trope, this has a nod to that, where Jada, our female character in this book, is an ex-contestant on a show much like The Bachelor, and she actually turned down the proposal at the end, so she is hated. So that dynamic is interesting, where people recognize her and ask her questions. That's fun. And then she ends up working at this bakery, and the owner is Dominic, and he is a NFL player who owns this bakery with 2 fellow NFL players, and they're all so sweet. The baking descriptions are great. You're gonna wanna have a cupcake when you read this. And I think we're gonna get romances for the other two NFLers as well, which is just so much fun. I cannot wait for that. And there was so much chemistry. I think so many people are gonna love this. This cover is great. I need this on my shelves, but there's quite a bit of a wait for this. I'm sorry about that, but I will not let you forget it, I promise. And then the next one was an ALC that I got from Nat Galley, and the book is out now, but I think it's a perfect book to read in October. I might reread it in October, and that is not The Witch You Wed, and let me check who this is by. April Asher. So this is a paranormal romance, which I don't read a lot of, and it's between a magicless witch and a werewolf. I don't think you need to know more than that. This was so fun. I love the audiobook. It's a second chance romance because they dated at one time and they're coming back together again, and he's kind of like an alpha male, you know, he's the leader of the werewolf, so you get that dynamic. And she's magicless, but there might be something more to her there, and she's discovering that. There's so much politics in here, which I was not expecting or prepared for, but absolutely loved, because he is trying to work out the politics within his group, so that is interesting. And there's great world building as well, so I really love this. I think this is so much fun. If you like small town Gilmore Girl vibes but with some magic in it, that is this. I'm sure in October, I've been thinking already that I'm going to do a list of books to read if you like Gilmore Girls, and this will be near the top. It's so much fun. Next up is actually a middle grade, and it is the book that I recommended for middle grade March in Kristin Book and Jam's video. Today is February 28th, so I believe the video is being posted tomorrow, so I obviously haven't seen it yet, but I'm so grateful that she reached out to me. I'm excited to see it and get recommendations. And this book is Forever Birchwood by Danielle Daniel. And this author is actually from my hometown. This book is set in my hometown. And I would say that the city really is a character in this book, which was so interesting to read. And she's dedicated it to, let me see what it says here, for every child who ever swam in one of the 330 lakes. So it feels like it's dedicated to me, which is just so beautiful. And it follows Wolf, who is an indigenous middle grader who wants to connect more to her roots, and her mom is not very open to that. So she really leans on her grandmother, and her grandmother tells her that her grandfather was able to speak to trees. So Wolf thinks that she has that power, and she's always felt connected to the trees, particularly birch trees, which we do have a lot of around here because this is a mining community and a lot of the trees died, and there was a big reforestation project, and that is a huge theme in this book. And one day Wolf and her friends go to their treehouse and realize that there are orange flags everywhere, which means that the trees are going to be torn down, and they're building a neighborhood, a suburb up there. So it's really about Wolf and her friends trying to save the trees. And it's really beautiful. It's well done. I love this setting. I felt a personal connection to it because of where it's set, and I know the history of this city. So I highly recommend this. I first heard about it by HTC Frenzy, their virtual events that they do. So it's published by HarperCollins, and I am just proud that this is out there. I really, really loved it. And then I read my third and final romance for the month, and that is Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. And this is another foodie romance, my favorite. And this is set on a competition, a cooking competition show, which is my favorite setting for a romance. I've read a few of those lately, and I just love that so much. And this one I really liked because a lot of them are baking, but this is cooking. And there's a lot of hilarity that comes from that. They milk cows at one point, and it goes terribly wrong. They gut fish. It's just pretty good. It's pretty funny. And the chemistry between these two characters, we're following Dahlia and London. And London is non-binary, and Dahlia is dealing with some financial problems, so they have other things going on, but their connection is so good. And then the friendships that Dahlia in particular forms with some of the other characters who are on this competition is really fun. And of course there's an antagonist, there's some villains, you know how all these competition shows kind of are. And I had such a great time with it. Super steamy, some interesting steamy scenes, very steamy. Like, you might not think that this is steamy. Be prepared if you pick this up. But I loved it. So good. I can understand why this is getting the hype right now, and I hope everybody who reads it loves it as much as I did, because I had a good time with it and would like to read more from this author. I then listened to an ALC of The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. Gorgeous cover. I think I'm getting a gorgeous edition of that in the mailbox soon, and I'm so excited about that because this book is so much fun. I don't say that books are whimsical or enchanting very often, but those are the perfect words for these books. And I wish I had a more understanding, more knowledge of Korean mythology, because I think if you do, you're going to appreciate this one even more, because I kind of like that Axio doesn't hold your hand through all this. She explains a lot of the stuff, but if you know the mythology, you're going to appreciate that she's not just telling you all the facts. Again, it's really a retelling. It's beautiful, easy to read. Loved the romance, loved the setting, loved the world, and I love that we just jump into the action. So it starts with our main character choosing to sacrifice herself to the sea god, because the sea god, people think that is cursing their land. So every year they sacrifice a bride to the sea god, hoping that the curse will end. And this year it's supposed to be her brother's girlfriend, and her brother goes after his girlfriend when she's going to sacrifice herself, but then our main character decides to go first, and she gets pulled down to an underground world. Beautiful, loved it. Some great characters, very, very whimsical. I love the audiobook as well. So yeah, I'm excited to have a copy of this for my shelf, and it's getting a lot of attention already, and it deserves it because it's really, really beautiful. Now here's an interesting one, The Falconer by Elizabeth May. This I read for the Lost Boys book club. I will leave the information for that down below. But the whole premise is that you read, every month we read one fae book and one pirate book. I haven't got to pirate book yet, but I want to very soon. That's Crossbones. But this was the fae book, and it was published in 2013. And it kind of felt that way, but not in a bad way. It's kind of nice to be back into that kind of YA again, but it really solidified for me that I don't love fae stories. I never have. I've tried so many times. I don't know what it is. I just do not click with fae. I like the way they were portrayed in here. They were evil in here. Loved it. I thought it went into some interesting directions in that way. Our main character is the Falconer, which means she hunts the fae, and this is a revenge plot. There is a love triangle I did not like, but it's very reminiscent of that time, and I thought it was fun in that way. I loved the setting of Scotland, and yeah, did some fun things. There were some great side characters, and there's like some exceptions to the evil fae, which I thought was fun. Lots of action, lots of fighting, but this ends on a huge cliffhanger, which actually made me mad, and I don't know if I will be continuing on with this. And I wish there was an audiobook, because I think if you did a audiobook with a Scottish narrator, this could be really fun, but I couldn't find one, which is upsetting, but maybe it's because of the time. But yeah, this took me longer to read than I thought it would. We'll see. I am going to put it on my shelves. It is one that I think is interesting to keep and reflect on, but not everything that I hoped for, because I just don't like fae. I don't know what it is. If you are like me, please let me know, because I know a lot of people love fae, but it just does not work for me. But yeah, if you read this, let me know. I think it's a trilogy, so I might continue, but cliffhanger really made me angry. I then read another e-arc, and that was One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. Loved this. Okay, I was so worried because I read The Dinner List by her, didn't jive with it. Then I read In 5 Years, didn't think I was going to like it at the beginning, fell in love with it. And that is exactly what happened with One Italian Summer. At first, I thought maybe it was going to be too sad. Maybe I wouldn't be able to connect with the main character, because she can be frustrating. She makes some interesting decisions I didn't always agree with, but I understood her. She loses her mother right in the beginning. It opens at her mother's funeral, and her mother and her were planning to go to this trip in Italy at Positano, and she decides to go on her own. And she's married, but she tells her husband that maybe they need a break. And she really spends this trip in Positano learning about her mother, learning about herself, learning about her marriage. And all of Rebecca Searle's books have like a bit of a magic element to it. And this one definitely did, because the whole premise is that she goes to Positano, stays at this hotel that her mom was familiar with, and she runs into her mother when her mom was 30 years old. So it's kind of like a parallel universe. I can't explain it to you. You just have to go with the flow. You really have to suspend your disbelief here and just accept the magic part of it. You have to do that with In 5 Years as well, and with The Dinner List. It's just, you just have to accept it. And it does make a lot of sense. It adds a lot of character development. I like the idea of Katie seeing her mom in her youth and seeing her as somebody other than her mom, as her own individual person, and that really helps with her grief. And that's another topic that Rebecca Searle does very well, is grief, and how grief is messy, it's frustrating, it's selfish. We all grieve differently, and Katie really goes through it in this. The ending was moving. I cried, the whole thing. It was definitely a Rebecca Searle book. The cover is gorgeous. The food descriptions were top tier, delicious. I wanted to go to Italy so badly. Every restaurant she talked about exists in real life. I was Googling all their food, their menu, the setting. Beautiful. I want to go to Positano. I think I went there. This is bad. I went to Italy in high school. We did the whole thing, and I think we did go to Positano, but obviously it was a school trip. I didn't get the romance of it that she got here, but yeah, beautiful. Want to go. Love this book. I think a lot of people are going to love it. I think Rebecca Searle is hit or miss, but if you liked In 5 Years, I think you might like this one. And obviously I liked it more than I thought, because that is the book I rambled on about the most so far. So yeah, I really did like that book. And then the last one was Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood, and I read this for a reading vlog that I'm going to be posting soon. It is Once Upon a Book Club, a book unboxing. They sent me their Castle of the Evil Eye book box, and this was the book that was in there, and I'm just going to have to show you underneath the dust jacket. That is an amulet. It's so beautiful. Amulets play a big part of this story. And this is a Jane Eyre retelling, which I loved. And we're following a main character named Andromeda, and she is kind of an exorcist, really, and she is hired to go to this manor that is owned by Mr. Rochester and get rid of all the evil spirits there. And it's spooky, it's creepy, a lot happens. There's a romance, not my favorite, didn't love the romance, but still love this. I thought it did some interesting things. I had this on my TBR before I got the book box, but I don't know that I ever would have gotten to it, and that would have been a shame, because I love the nods to Jane Eyre. Maybe want to reread the book, but you'll hear more about my thoughts as I read it. I flew through it, so there aren't that many updates throughout the vlog, because it's such an easy read. But I will be posting that video. Probably the next video I post will be that, so look out for that. So those are the 10 books that I read in February. It was a good mix of books. I thought I got some romance in here. Apparently I read 5 fantasy, which is so not me, which is fun. It's like, of course I want to read romance, and I'm like, nope, I'm gonna read fantasy. But there was some fantasy romance in there, so I will take it. So let me know how your February reading went. If you read any romance, what was the best book you read in February? Mine was probably A Natural History of Dragons, but even though I didn't give What Italian Summer 5 stars, apparently I liked it more than I thought. Isn't that interesting? When you talk about a book, you can see how hyped you were about it. But anyways, so let me know what was your favorite book of February. I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.